Hello, hello. What is that? Get off of there. Okay. All right, here we go. We'll be starting here shortly. Welcome, everybody, to the Even Stronger Families Masterclass. Today, we're going to talk about how to raise confident, exceptional children who become successful adults without wondering if you missed your one chance to shape their future. Uh, because during today's masterclass, you're going to learn how to build a legacy of stability, peace, and joy in your home so your children reach the top of their God given potential. Now, before we get started, let me make one thing clear. This is for parents who want their kids to reach the top of their God given potential, not for those who are satisfied with another participation trophy. Now, let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with getting started. Okay. I love to start new things and to participate and to have my kids be a part of brand new things. I love it, but I want them to rise to the top. Okay. I want the cream to rise to the top. Okay. I don't want them to stay happy with just getting started. And I'm sure you don't either. Now, as a gift, I'm going to give to you tonight the peace principle. It is it's all about resolving family conflict before they divide you. This is a huge resource. I normally charge up to $200 for it, but I'm going to give it to you absolutely free as my gift for coming here tonight. So now listen, I've taught Olympic coaches. I've been on TV. I've taught my own daughters how to receive thousands of dollars in scholarship. I've had my master's in education. I've written multiple books, including children's books, parenting books, teaching books. I teach in conferences, and I've done this for over 20 years. But I want to talk to you first about you. You probably have been struggling, and this is why. You might have had lots of different parents trying to tell you what you should do. You probably had family, in-laws, different people whispering and telling you one thing, and then having somebody else tell you something different. Maybe you've checked Facebook, YouTube. Maybe you've searched and you've looked up one thing and you're like, okay, this is what I should do. Then all of a sudden the next day it's like, don't you ever do that? Are you crazy? And you're like, I don't know what to do. So you're receiving all these mixed messages. Maybe you recognize that we live in a society that promotes the idea that truth is subjective and that biblical values are outdated or intolerant, that modern views on gender, sexuality, and marriage are under attack. And that is absolutely true. Okay, you live in a world where unrestricted access is always chasing your children down through phones, through computers, through the school. Think about all of the things that traditional public schools teach kids what to think and what not to think. In fact, there's a term in classrooms called the unspoken curriculum. It means everything not in a classroom says something to the kids about what's important. The Bibles that aren't in classrooms, although they're the most sold book of all time, they're not welcome in a classroom. What does that tell you? Something's wrong. Okay. So but I want to let you know there is hope. You have a dream worth pursuing. You're not alone. There are answers to your questions, and better yet, there are questions you don't even know that you should be asking to help set your children up for success. And we're going to be doing that today because we have one goal. I've said it once, I'm going to say it again: how to raise confident, exceptional children who become successful adults without wondering if you missed your one chance to shape their future. So, for instance, you've probably tried talking to your friends, your family, you've went to church. Hey, they all mean well. They'll give you good ideas, good principles, but maybe you're like, I need some specifics. I need to know how to structure my home and my family so that it's harder for my kids to fail than to succeed. You've probably looked into parents. You've probably looked into coaches and churches, podcast, social media. You've looked all sorts of places to get some good ideas about where to go. Okay, but the problem is all these different places can push you in different directions. And how do you know how to put them all together to set your kids and your family up so that you can do this every day? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, before we do, I want to let you know that I grew up in a broken home. My family, I remember specific what was falling apart. I remember one day my dad was supposed to come home from work. It was late night. It was a Friday night. And I was about 5 years old, sitting downstairs, playing on one of those plastic kitchens. I would open up the drawers, and I remember having a little frying pan that I put in there and little boxes of cereal. And I remember that I was waiting for the garage door to open. And when I heard it, the garage door come open, and then Dad opened up the door. I ran up to my dad, and he picked me up, and he threw me across the room. I remember bouncing off the wall, laying on the couch, and he went upstairs and began to beat, began to beat my mom. Now, at the time, I had no idea what was going on. I tried to go upstairs, and my brother and sister held me down and said, "Don't do that." And I said, "Why? What's going on?" They looked at each other, and my brother said, "Dad's beating up Mom." I remember thinking, that doesn't sound right. They love each other. What's going on? Well, the time that night was over and the next day happened, my mother loaded me, my brother, my sister, and I, or my brother, my sister, and I loaded us up into the car, into the red Ford Escort, and started driving away from my home in Paragon. I remember being in the back seat of my car, looking out the back seat window, watching the road get smaller and smaller, and our house disappear from sight. My brother says to my mom, "Does this mean what I think it means?" Now, I didn't know what the word divorce meant, but when she said yes, I started crying because I thought it meant I'd never see my dad again. Well, we went and stayed with my mom's sister and we shuffled in between her sisters. And eventually we got our own house, but my mom was trying her best to become sober and to recover from her addiction to alcohol. Well, I'm happy to let you know over 30 years has passed and she is completely sober. But during that time, because she was just trying to save her own life, I was left to myself a lot. I was the child in school who the teachers would talk about in the teacher lounge and say, I don't know what to do with it. And now I'm not mad at them because I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like a cup being poured out. I was like a cup of water being poured out of the cup. I'd splash everywhere. I had no boundaries, no understanding, very little character. People didn't know how to use their authority and to set up the environment to prepare me for success. They had no idea what to do with me. Well, things didn't get much better as I got older. However, since I was smart, gifted naturally, I got into college. But guess what? After 6 months, I got myself kicked out of college. And it was around that time that I ended up giving my life to the Lord. Because on April 10th, 2002, I simply wanted to be happy, safe, and valuable. But I had no idea how to make any of that happen. And so I remember, and has its own story, but I remember kneeling down in the middle of the woods right here by this Hendricks Ford Bridge in Edinburgh, Indiana. I got a whole story about this, but I knelt down on the tree branch, on the wood. There was a big log that had fallen over. And I told the Lord, I said, God, I don't know how to live my life. But if you want me, I'll give myself to you, and I'll start living my life the way you want me to. Well, not long after that, I ended up getting married and I had my own children. But I never wanted my daughters to feel the way I did. I wanted them to be safe, to do something of value, to do something important, and then to have someone who loved them that they could love back. But the problem was I had no idea how to create a stable, peaceful, or joyful home. I didn't even know what one looked like, much less how to create one. And so I got a job at my church's daycare working with babies, toddlers, and preschoolers even before I had kids. I wanted my kindergarten daughter, she wasn't even in kindergarten yet, I wanted her to walk into kindergarten the first day and have the teacher say, so who did your hair? Your mommy? And her to look up and say, no, my daddy did. And so I learned how to do hair while being a preschool teacher. I went back to college, majoring in elementary education so I could learn how children think, what to do to set them up for success so that I could do that with my own children. I even pursued so far, I got my master's degree so that I could set them up for success. In fact, I've spent the past 20 years studying how to prepare children to reach and fulfill their potential. And in doing so, I discovered one principle that changed everything. Every environment is perfectly designed to produce its exact results. I've applied this theory to thousands of children across hundreds of classrooms. I've applied this theory to my own life, to my own children over the past 20 years. I've used this theory when I've taught as a basketball coach, a football coach, a soccer coach, a volleyball coach, and I've never taught baseball. So if you're hiring, let me know. But if you're ready to hear what I've learned from here after this point, let me hear you say, oh, yes. Now, I've learned a 12-point home framework, and I'm going to teach it to you tonight based on the 12 points of every environment. People always say you need to have structure in your home. You need structure in your classroom. You need structure when you work with children. What does that even mean? This is what it means. I'm going to teach you all about it tonight. But before we do, I do want to let you know, I have still gone through some hard things. My children have had to fight, I've worked with children who bit, who screamed at the top of their lungs. I've had children throw chairs, run out of the building whenever they can't behave themselves. I had children, I've had middle school students who cut themselves and think about doing things that no child should think about doing. I've had problems with my own marriage, my own family, my own conflict, where we would butt heads, where we'd turn heads and have the silent treatment, where we'd argue at stop signs and even walk out of the car because we didn't want to deal with the problems that we were facing. I've questioned my own self and thought to myself, is this real? Do these 12 points genuinely provide what I think it does? And I can tell you that I've just celebrated my 20-year anniversary with an Alaskan cruise. My children were accepted into Berkeley University and in fact turned it down in order to go to a private Christian school because my daughters felt called to go there instead of where it might be popular. They've received tens of thousands of dollars in scholarships. And my own daughter and my second daughter, got a story for you tonight I'm going to tell you about in a little bit, some success that she's done. Now, I'm telling you all this because when I was growing up, I would hear things like, I hope you're proud of yourself. Well, can I tell you, I am pleased with who I've become. Now, I'm not perfect, but I have transformed myself through the Lord's help, listening to his ways, learning his ways, and applying them to my life. I am no longer that same boy who was water poured out of a cup. I've learned how to channel my energy for focus and success. And what I've done is I set myself up to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. And I want to let you know, you are what I want to help you to be successful, just like I've been successful. So here is the 12-point framework. Now, I do want to let you know, I have, after 20 years and tens of thousands of dollars, literally, I was adding it up the other day. I think it's about $100,000 in education and trainings I've spent in discovering how to provide exactly what I'm going to provide you tonight with. I've discovered the hard way. Because you're here, you get the easy way. And so let's dive in. Here are the 3 secrets of a lasting legacy. Number 1 is how to build a family foundation that develops character, confidence, and lasting success. It says lifelong, but that's just your life and then your children's life and then their children's life. Legacy of success is what we're talking about. Number 2 is how to create an even stronger home culture so that challenges strengthen your family instead of breaking them apart. And then number 3, I'm going to show you how to protect your family legacy from the influence competing for your children's hearts, minds, and identity. So let's get started. Number 1 is how to build the family foundation that develops character, confidence, and lifelong success. Now, before I do, I want to let you know that the way I found this out, at least part of this, was I would work with middle school students, elementary students, preschool students. But recently I was with a middle school teacher and she was teaching middle school. I was teaching middle school, and I would have those exact same students in my class would go to her class. And in my class, they would do well, they would thrive. And in her class, those same kids would get angry, fight, and argue. Now she says to me, how do you do it? What do you do? And I told her, I don't know. You see, what happened is I had to go and think to myself, what do I do? And so I did what I always did. I studied, I researched, I took time to figure out what it is that I did to set them up for success, because it wasn't me. I knew that. I knew that if I could do it, she could do it. And so what I began to do, I began to pray and seek the Lord. And I asked him and I said, what is it? And I came across a scripture in Genesis 1:1. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And as I read those words, something clicked. You see, God wasn't just creating the world. He was teaching us how to create our own. I realized that every environment is perfectly designed to produce its exact results. And God was showing me exactly what every environment has as its foundation. So let me show you what it is. Number 1, time. In the beginning is time. So how you use your time, what you do with your time, is the first priority in designing your home. Number 2, parents, who you are as a person. your character, your mindset, your beliefs is going to determine everything that happens in your universe, specifically in your home. Then you have your purpose. This, think about it. It says that God created. That was his purpose. Because at that time, based on who he was, that's what he wanted to do. What your purpose, what your purpose is, will determine what happens in your home. So the question is, what is it that you want to create? Then you have the place, the heavens and the earth. That is the physical place that he was creating. It is the boundaries and the stuff inside of it. What are the space and the supplies that you are providing, that you have created for your family to thrive? And so think about this. It dawned on me, because every environment is perfectly designed to produce its exact results. If a classroom had peace, my classroom had peace, her classroom had chaos. Those four elements were out of alignment in her classroom. In my classroom, those four elements were perfectly aligned. And when I began to teach her how to improve just her time, to use her time more wisely, everything changed based on the purpose that she had within the four walls of her classroom. Wow. So in your own home, I began to apply these things. Because once I understood that principle, I went back and looked at everything I had ever learned. I studied the most modern research. I looked at my master's classrooms, and my master's level thesis, at the brain research that I had developed, that I had learned. Not developed, that I had learned. I looked at my character program that I had developed. It was my master's thesis that I had to create. All of these things fell in line exactly with this statement, that if things are chaotic, it's because you've designed a world in which there is chaos. If you want things to change, then you have to change your world. So every effective practice has to be done purposefully. So let's take a look at the structure of the home. If those four are the foundation, every structure has its own points. Let's take a look at this. Number one is the children. Who they are as a person affects the environment of the home. If they're kids of good character, proper beliefs, a good, strong mindset, the rest of the structure of the home will be strengthened. If not, the rest will be weakened. Just like in a house, if you have a crack in the wall, that's going to damage the overall structure of your house until you fix it. Then you have authority. If you don't exercise your God-given authority, then you're leaving your kids open to disaster. Think about it. If you ask them to do something and you don't enforce the authority, if you don't use your authority to enforce it, then all of the structure, all of the thing that's going to motivate them to do what's right is relying on their own character. Now, if you also enforced it, you would have double strength to encourage them to do what's right. Man, this is so good. I hope you get this. If you properly use authority in your home, your children will do what is right because you're enforcing the idea of a consequence. Now, that right there can motivate a kid with no character to do what's right out of selfishness. Now, obviously, that's not the goal. We want our kids to do what's right because it's the right thing to do. But can I tell you, sometimes I go to work because I get paid. That is a motivation of authority. You fulfill the assignment given to you, and your authority rewards you with certain good works, certain good things. That is just the way sometimes the world works. Next is communication. What words are you using? Your communication style affects the environment of your home. Now, whether you speak a lot or speak a little, what matters most is every word that you say, is it thought through? Are you being careful to ask yourself, is it hurtful or is it helpful? If you're using sarcasm with your kids all day, I know what your home is like. If you're provoking your children to anger, I know what your home is like. Instead, you can use your communication to build up and not tear down. These are the structural points of your home. Next is learning. Specifically, this is your children's purpose. So your purpose is the foundation of your home. Your children's purpose is one of the structural points built on that foundation. And one of the main things your children should be learning is how to do life. For instance, your responsibility is to give them responsibilities. Those purposes are not the same. So, whatever it is that you need your kids to learn how to do, your job is to help empower them to do it. Their job is to learn to do it. Those are not the same. And then you have boundaries. What are the limits within your home? Another word for boundaries, there's a certain boundary. If it's on the bottom, it's called an expectation. Expectations are minimum boundaries. They are, hey, if you're a part of this household, we don't use words like that. We don't cuss whenever we talk to each other. We don't call each other names even when we're upset. Those are expectations, minimum boundaries. Then you have maximum boundaries. You say, hey, we go to bed at this time because we have to get up at this time. So you can tell a lot about a household based on the boundaries that are important to them. Next up, relationships. Relationships are not the same as authority. An authority relationship is one of top and bottom. And absolutely, you might not, it's not of value. Parents aren't of more value than their children or of more worth, okay? But there is a different role. Just like in the military, we understand it very clearly. In a job situation, we understand it. Person signing the checks has authority. They're not necessarily your friend. They might be, but it's different. Here at relationships, these are equal relationships. Your partner at work, not the one who signs your checks, but the partner who works with you, you have an equal relationship. In your home, your children have equal relationships. That is not the same as a relationship between you and your child. You've got to get this. So additionally, with these relationships, what relationships are you helping the children in your household to develop outside of your household? Remember, I teach all of my middle school students this. This is huge. And my little kids, this is true for, but more than little kids, it's for middle school and up. You cannot control how you will behave when you are around a group of peers. What you can control is which group of peers you are around. Get this. Your children will behave like the groups they are around. You can set your children up for success by choosing which groups they're around, and not just because they happen to be the neighbor next door. Be purposeful about the relationships that your children are developing with each other and with other peers who are on their same level, such as that sports and in academics. Next are the problems coming your way. There are three kinds of problems in life. Listen to this, write this down. The known knowns. These are problems of challenges that we see coming. Christmas is coming in December this year. You should know it and prepare for it. Don't wait until December 24th to go buy your presents. If problems are going to come your way, and obviously Christmas isn't a problem, but not having presents certainly could be. Your anniversary, children's birthdays. These problems are going to come. The first day of school. This is a problem. It's going to come. Are you prepared for it? The last day of school, the beginning of summer. These are problems. You need to prepare for them. Those are known problems. They're called known knowns. Then you have known unknowns. We know a challenge is coming, but we don't know for sure what it's going to be like or how it's going to affect our family. For instance, teenagers. We know there's a lot of people talk about teenagers. If you've got a baby and you're like, okay, how's this toddler going to behave? We need to learn how to handle toddlers before they become toddlers. The time to plan for anything is not in the middle of it. It's right before it. So you've got to prepare for the known unknowns. And then the worst kind of problem are the unknown unknowns. These are the things that you don't even know to prepare for. But there are some powerful things you can do to set up your family for success so that when the wind blows, when the rains fall, when the house shakes, it can stand. And you are doing that by being here tonight and empowering on purpose all the point and strengthening on purpose all the points of structure in your home's foundation and structure. And then finally, victories. These are the things that you celebrate individually and as a group, daily, weekly, and seasonally with your family. When you do this, your life, your family will be strengthened. So let's take a look at a story of Susan and Nolan. It says here, the audio is not working, so I'm going to read this off. It says, before learning these principles, I didn't realize how much I was holding back in my own home. I always wanted to be a good mom, but sometimes I felt guilty having expectations. I didn't want to be too strict and make my family feel controlled. So I'd hesitate to set clear standards and follow through. But I realized something important. Being the mom doesn't mean I have to be mean or yell at my children. It means I have the responsibility and the authority to create the kind of environment where they can grow. Once I started making changes in my home and really taking ownership of my role, everything started to shift. I became more confident setting expectations. I became more consistent. I stopped feeling bad for asking my kids to contribute and to be responsible. My son especially started changing. He's in the 7th grade, and before asking him to do simple things like cleaning up the dishes could turn into an argument. Even getting him to put his dish in the sink and rinse it off felt like a battle. But as I changed the expectations in the environment of our home, he started stepping up. He began doing chores. He started cleaning his dishes without the arguing. And I realized the biggest change wasn't just in him, it was in me. I realized I had the ability and the responsibility to set the standard in my home. I wasn't abusing authority. I was using it the way it was intended, to guide, teach, and help my children become responsible adults. This gave me the confidence as a mom that I needed, and it helped create a more peaceful and joyful home. This is just one of the 12 points. I have examples of all 12. And so let me tell you guys something. This will work. This will work for families of high capacity kids to reach the top of their God-given potential. If you already have a strong home, a strong family, this is going to work for you. It's going to help you to strive for things like the Olympics and professional sports, movies, and TV. This will help you to graduate ready for college and be career and be prepared to earn thousands in college scholarships. It's going to help you to follow a proven plan instead of trial and error. It's going to help your child to reach their highest potential. But this will also change your family's legacy for generations, to cut conflict quickly and restore peace, to prevent drugs, crime, prison, and addiction, to prepare for life's problems before they begin, to raise children with wisdom, responsibility, and resilience, and to protect your family from life's greatest pitfalls. And so remember, with this 12-point home framework, you can design your future. You can design the future you want for your family. You can inspect and strengthen your family structure, and then the family legacy you want will last. And so now think to yourself, well, how do we create this might be great, Andrew, but I love that, but I don't think I can do it. It's too much for me. Well, let me give you a secret too. How to create a home culture so strong that strengthen your family instead of breaking it apart. This is called the root framework, and we're going to dive you into it. But before I do, I'm going to share with you how I discovered it. When my daughter was 8 years old, here she is at 4, 6, and about 8 years old, she started to drink a whole lot of juice. And she kept going to mom saying, Mom, I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. And mom's like, well, okay. And then she's like, Mom, I got to use the restroom. I got to use the restroom. You're like, and I'm like, babe, why do you keep using the restroom so much? Why are you drinking so much? What's going on? Well, my wife got concerned and said, Andrew, I think these are signs of type 1 diabetes, because she'd also lost a lot of weight really quickly. And I said to my wife, I said, honey, we're faith-filled Christians. We're not going to believe that. We need to pray. God protects our family. And besides that, we had her tested when she was born for signs of diabetes. And there's never been diabetes in our family. And this is impossible. Well, the next day, as I was cleaning out the toilet, I saw that there was a mold around the bottom of the toilet seat, which is a sign of type 1 diabetes. And so what happened is the next day, our world, or that day, our world was changed. We hit a massive wall because when we took our daughter to the emergency room, the doctor came in and said, "You better thank the Lord because your daughter should be in a coma. Her blood sugar is off the charts." And we received a crash course in how to take care of your family as with a child who has type 1 diabetes. Our daughter was told by the doctor that she would have to have shots, at least 5 a day, every day for the rest of her life. And that she would have to, on top of that, have to have finger pricks every day to test her blood sugar. And she began crying. He tried to tell her, "Hey, everything's going to be okay." And she looked at him and said, "Well, do you have it?" He said, "No, I don't." And so she kept crying, went to the bathroom and shut the door. As the doctor left, I went over there and said, "Cadence, are you okay?" And she started crying more, even more, and saying, "Dad, why? And I said, "Honey, I don't know. I don't know. But I can tell you that day I learned a lesson that's changed my life forever. You can do everything right and still have the wrong thing happen. But it's not about avoiding the bad problems. It's about what do you do next. It's not about saying, why me? It's about asking, what now?" And so when we went home, we had no choice. We had to learn. We had to develop. And we're still learning and developing to this day. But I can tell you this. My daughter has graduated from high school. She is now in college pursuing to become her medical degree so that she can become a pediatric endocrinologist. She wants to be the doctor from her own story so that if, number one, she can find a cure. But number two, if she has to tell a little child, an 8-year-old little girl, that you have type 1 diabetes, she can roll up her sleeve and say, "And I have it too, and you're going to be okay." That's what it means to take bad things and turn them around for good. So the number one thing we did was we resolved ourselves, because the R in root yourself stands for deciding there is no option. There is no other option. We have to do this thing. For you and your family, there is no option. You have to be a legacy builder. You have to you have to strengthen your family so that you can withstand the hard things that are coming, and to set them up for success so that it'll catapult them to heights you never even thought possible. And then the O in the root system is that others are selected. Surround yourself with the right people, like me, like this teaching that I'm sharing with you now. Join with me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channels. Join my email list. I love to strengthen other leaders and other family members. I'm part of a group of legacy builders. Join us through Masters Learning Academy. Our goal is to help to strengthen families to set children up for success. Teachers, parents, mentors. The next O is observe and learn. Don't ignore the signs or your mistakes. If you have a problem, admit to it quickly. Don't be like me whenever I ignored the signs of my daughter having type 1 diabetes, and it took a toilet seat to humble me. But when I did see that, I was willing, to rethink my mindset, to change my beliefs that, okay, we have to take care of this or something worse could happen. And then finally, take action. Wanting things to change doesn't make them change. You have to get started following a plan, such as the legacy foundation that I have, that I'm going to share with you later on tonight and offer to you if you want to take and invest in yourself with. But until then, this root system is simply to resolve yourself. Others are is when you resolve yourself, others are selected, you observe and learn, and you take action. Your family will be able to achieve great success. Now, this next thing I'm going to share with you is about a boy named Brock Jenkins. This was the strongest willed child I have ever met in my life, that little redheaded boy there. Now, I will tell you, when I first became a preschool teacher, I did everything wrong. In fact, I over relied on the one point I knew worked: authority. I would boss kids around. Now it worked because it is one of the structural points of a good environment. But you can over rely on one point. And if you don't have good structure and a good foundation, you will. Instead, I wish I could go back and help me with the problem that I had. Because me and this little boy here, this was on a good day. This picture here, well, on a not so good day, it was time for lunch. I was preparing the lunch boxes because I was a preschool teacher and we had to serve lunches to our kids. And I put all the lunch boxes at the table and told all the kids it was time for lunch. Everybody washed their hands and came over to the tables. And every day, everybody was supposed to sit at the chair at their spot. Well, Brock today decided and said to me, I don't want to sit down. And I said, Brock, you're supposed to sit down. So I walked over to him to show him how big I was and to try to intimidate him, which there's better tools. I didn't know what else to use. But he started to run away. So I started running after him. He climbed underneath the tables. I climbed underneath the tables. And in fact, he took his chair and threw it across the room. I wish so much I could go back and tell myself, buddy, there's a better way. Here, use these 12 points. Quit. And better yet, let him stand. Some things don't need to be corrected. My mindset was off. I was the problem. Now, was he a problem? Sure, but he's fine. There's some things I could have done to set him up to be successful. There's some things that I could have done so that I could have had more stable, peaceful, joyful days in my classroom so that I could help set him up, so I could set him up for success as well. But I can tell you that over time, I coached him. I learned how to develop him. His parents, who helped me to develop this system, taught some of these principles to me that I'm teaching to you. And now this same boy, with all that strong will, has channeled it just like a water from a river is channeled in a direction to be an Olympic coach. In fact, that guy next to him, that's Brock, obviously, with the red hair and the blue shirt. But the guy next to him is an Olympian, and the boy next to them both is one of Brock's students, and he is a junior Olympian working on the upcoming Olympics. So we're super excited and proud of him. And he's teaching this using these same foundational points in his classes, in his groups, and you can do it as well. And so now let's take a look at Secret 3. How to protect your family legacy from the influences competing for your child's heart, mind, and identity. Because you might be thinking to yourself, listen, this is great. These 12 points, I love it. I'm going to resolve myself to do it. But honestly, there's too many outside influences. My family is too involved. My school they're doing too much. Society's doing too much. Phones are doing too much. Media is too influential. We're going to help set you on the right framework right now through the greenhouse framework. We're going to talk about these things because the greenhouse framework is a simple process for creating an intentional family environment that protects what matters most while preparing children for the challenges ahead. Let's jump into it. Number one, I want to tell you where I came up with this, at least in part, was in 7th grade. I was a middle school student, and my science teacher let all the middle school students go outside and work in the greenhouse. Now, if you did good in school, well, I was doing really good in school, but he still wouldn't let me outside because he said, Andrew, you can't control yourself when I'm watching you, much less when I'm not watching you. I thought that was unfair, but he wasn't wrong. So he never let me go outside in the greenhouse, except for on occasion when the whole class went. And on one of those occasions, I noticed something. Outside the classroom, outside the greenhouse, the environment was all crazy, but inside was perfectly made for those plants. Those plants to develop strong roots, and then eventually we take those plants outside and plant outside the greenhouse and plant them into the garden once they were strong enough to survive the wind and the waves. The wind and the rain. Because I grew up in the Midwest, weather was all over the place. So you had to make sure those plants were ready for all that weather. You see, the G for greenhouse stands for govern what you can control. Accept your responsibility. Even strong families begin to understand that not everything can be controlled. Yes, that's true. But what can be? Your children are your responsibility. Everything inside of your home is your responsibility. The phones that they have access to, the videos that they watch, the people who come inside your home, those people influence everyone else in the room. You can govern those things. You do not have to please everybody else. Say this after me. I cannot control everything outside my home, but I can take responsibility for everything inside my home. And that's enough. You see, you have been given that authority and that responsibility. And if you take it, that will be enough. Because the R is to recognize what you cannot control. You see, you have to accept that some things are outside of your control, and that's okay too. But you can plan for how to combat against them. For instance, in school, I have a book called The Parental Bill of Rights. It lets you know exactly what your rights are and how to exercise them when you send your children to school. That's part of my legacy influence book class. There is a greenhouse media. You can greenhouse your media, which is your movies, your TVs, your music, anything that your children listen to or see. Part of my framework is how to empower your children to choose the right media. You can greenhouse social media, teaching your kids specifically how to watch out for dangers while they're on their phone. You can greenhouse your children's friends. You see, you cannot control how your children will behave when they're around their friends. What you can control is which friends they are around. So you should always know the kind of character of your children's friends and who they are. And then you can greenhouse your in-laws. That's right. You can ask how and why. I have something called the peace principle, which is one of the gifts I'm going to give you tonight, which answers how and why to politely ask your in-laws to butt out, even if your spouse isn't so sure. You see, many of the influences may come from people who love our children and who want what they think is best for them and who love them. But love does not guarantee that every influence is aligned with the values and principles that you want established in your home. We cannot control everything outside of our house, but we can control what we allow to shape our children inside of it by preparing them for what they will face, such as their school and friends and their media. Now, next is to establish your environment. When you establish your environment, you make things that your children want to have be available in your home. You see, whenever I was growing up, when my children were growing up, I had the house. I established my home as the place to be. I had the pool, although it was given to us. I had a trampoline, a large one, although it was free. We made our home the place where our children wanted to be and their friends wanted to be. I would have time carved out to have Friday night sleepovers. I didn't know what was going on or Saturday night sleepovers so their friends could come to church on Sunday. I didn't know what was going on in other people's houses. It wasn't my obligation to let my daughters go stay at their house. No, thank you. I don't know you. I know who you show me you are, but I don't know who you really are. However, I know me, and I established my environment by creating a place where my children wanted to be and where their friends felt comfortable. And so you want to create the same conditions for your home. Then the next E is to equip your children. Accept the fact that there are going to be times that once they are strong, they have to leave the house, and that's okay. When they leave the house, they come back. In fact, there's a story I want to tell you of a 4-year-old. I'm going to give you an illustration. A mother who takes their child to the playground has one of these kind of children. Number one, a child who does not leave her side, who sits on the chair with her and never leaves, who won't do anything because the mom has to be there with her. You do not want that kind of child. That child has no roots of their own. They're being held together only by you, and that leaves a child weak. The next kind of child at a playground, a 4-year-old child, will run, play on something, look at the mom and say, Mom, do you see me? Yes, honey, I see you. Watch this. And they'll go down. That's good. That's building roots. Then that child will come back and say, Mom, did you see me? Yeah, I did. Go do it again. Okay. That just building confidence in the child. It's great. There's also the kind of child who goes, plays the whole time. And I'll tell you this, even if they're just playing over there, occasionally they look back over to make sure you're still there. Maybe to say, hey, watch, just so to see that you're still watching. That's fine too. These are strong rooted children who are equipped to handle the world. You see, the goal in raising children is that we would have children who would change the world, not have children who the world changes. So that's why you want to build this legacy and to develop your greenhouse, because the last thing, the end, is that you need to accept that it will take time and that you need to nurture growth. Your children won't be strong overnight. There's a reason it takes 18 years to develop stability. Even if you say, okay, 12 years, a child takes time to grow and to develop. Accept that. All 12 of these points, it takes time. You have to develop. Your purpose is to develop a greenhouse. Your space is within that environment. Do you see the foundation there? It takes time for your children to develop character. It takes time for you to properly use your authority. It takes time to communicate properly with your kids and explain things so that they can learn. It takes time for boundaries to be well established. It takes time to develop relationships with your kids so that they develop the right relationships, so that really you can receive one of the best gifts of all time, which is to be friends with your children. But that's a bonus. It takes time for problems and victories to be for problems to be solved and victories to be celebrated. You see the 12-point framework here? You can do it. I'm giving you the tools to help make it possible. And so I want to remind you that you can greenhouse your in-laws using the peace principle. And I'm going to give that to you as my special gift for you being here tonight. Stay at the end. I'm going to give that to you. And so let me ask you a question. If you use the 12-point foundation and structure framework, could you have the kind of success you want for your family? If you planted roots for your family, could you have the kind of success you want? And if you made your home a greenhouse, if you greenhoused your home, could you have the kind of success you want for your family? Because these 3 secrets, remember, how to make it harder for children to fail than to succeed, how to make your home so stable and peaceful and joyful that the biggest problems catapult them to even higher success, and how to protect your family legacy from outside influence. I've looked over all 3 of these. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like I just took a box of Legos, dumped it out all over you, and said, here you go, here's all the pieces, and that's it? If you put all those pieces together, you will create that house. But as anybody who's ever built Legos knows, that comes with an instruction manual. Where's the manual? Well, the answer to that is right here, the Family Legacy Inspection. My question to you is, may I take a few minutes and share with you my how-to formula for making all this happen? I'm going to sell this. I'm going to offer you the opportunity to purchase this. This is something that costs money. And I'll explain to you why it costs money here in a minute. But I want to let you know that if you invest in yourself today, you're going to get the 12-point framework, all 12 points in the master class Inspection Family Legacy. You're going to, because one of the greatest examples of intentional parenting that I've ever seen wasn't from a book. It was from my pastor and his wife. You see, over these past 20 plus years, I've watched them raise their children. I've watched them coach youth sports. I've watched them lead their church. After years of watching, I've noticed something. They weren't successful because they got lucky. They consistently built the right environment. And every environment produces exactly the results of that environment. His son's baseball and football teams won multiple championships. He's been a coach. His children are successful. His son is one of the Olympic coaches I was telling you about. His other two sons have their own businesses, graduated from college, are doing well, live in LA. You see, these aren't just good parenting ideas. These are timeless principles that work anywhere that children are being developed into adults. Over the years, I've studied those principles, organized them into a practical framework, and begun applying them in my own life, my own classrooms, my own teams, and the own families I now serve. And so when you do this, when you take this legacy inspection, you're going to raise children with confidence, character, and resilience. You're going to follow a proven plan instead of trial and error. You're going to build a strong foundation before challenges arise. You're going to create a family culture built on purpose, values, and consistency. You're going to strengthen relationships and create a peaceful home. You're going to build a legacy for future generations. You're going to be able to replace a house full of activity with a home full of purpose. You're going to replace parent guilt with confidence and clarity. You're going to replace entitlement with gratitude and contribution. Yes, I hate entitlement. And gratitude is the number one key to fight off entitlement. You're going to replace feelings of failure with a proven plan to follow. You're going to replace surviving each day with building a family culture. And you're going to replace inconsistent rules with clear family standards. You see, you can create the foundation that helps children succeed in school, sports, relationships, and life because that foundation is at home. You can replace years of trial and error parenting, reduce the likelihood of costly counseling, prison, drugs, reduce behavioral battles, reduce dependence on outside the home programs, stop spending money investing to fix problems later, instead prevent them now. And so here's what you're going to get. Number one, the 6-week family legacy inspection worth $24,997 value. What else you're going to need? Well, the Confident Scholar Vault. Ongoing, if the 6-week family legacy is for you, the Confident Scholar Vault is for your kids. It's going to have all the ongoing tools, videos, and courses created, especially for your kids, to help them fulfill their potential in school, in sports, in art, in music, in faith. You see, there was a boy, his name was Sammy. And I'm going to read you his story. Too often, when Sammy logged into his digital learning platform, he skipped the instructional videos, got sidetracked by clutter on his desk or in the TV, and jumped from lesson to lesson. He wanted to make progress, he wanted to earn top grades, and he wanted to build confidence for high school. But he hit a wall. Because he kept getting frustrated, things would not work. He was unable to finish any of them. That's whenever I introduced him to the tools within the Confident Scholar Vault. By using our 5-step framework, just one of the things inside the Confident Scholar Vault, which is the Building Confidence Through Character framework, this tool taught him how to build character by telling stories to his mind to change the bad stories he tells himself with good stories. He replaces his "I can't do it" attitude with "yes, I can" attitude. It has the Independent Learning Journal, which walks you through the 5 steps of learning. There's the It Is Good Building Gratitude framework, the 3 things you should do every day and every week to build gratitude. The Resilience Protocol, so that you quit trying to avoid mistakes and start learning from them. And then finally, the Master's Partner Protocol, which is how to work with other people, other students, successfully using the When I'm Stuck checklist instead of wasting time. You see, Lucy was another one of my parents, and she said my daughter grew so much in her math, but the biggest change was in her confidence. That is what we're doing. We're changing children's confidence from the inside out. And so you're probably thinking, well, this is way too much. But let me remind you of this. You're going to get the 6-week family legacy inspection for $24,997 value, the Confident Scholar Vault access for 6 months, which is an $1,182 value, totaling $26,179. But wait, there's more. I'm developing currently right now how to earn tens of thousands of dollars in scholarship money to attend Stanford University or the university of your choice. My daughters received scholarship. I've done this myself, and I'm helping other people do it as well. What I am doing right now is to develop this course so that you can learn on your own whenever you're ready. And time is your friend. And so let's take a look at it. Everything inside of this includes how to score 1505 on your SATs. It's a 4-year prep program. Use it as a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. How to use the independent learning journal and the Confident Scholar Vault to focus during study time. I specifically use the tools from the Vault to teach you how to set your children up for success. And they can apply it to themselves. Because if this is their goal, if this is their purpose, then they can do it. And then I teach you also how to apply and get into Stanford or the university of your choice. And as a special offer, with this offer only, as I'm developing this course, you're going to receive lifetime access, never to be offered again. So if your child is a baby, you're going to have it ready to go. If you are a senior in high school, you're going to have it for the rest of your life. So you don't have to apply now. You can apply when you're ready. So you're going to get the 6-week family legacy inspection for $24,997 value, the Confident Scholar Vault access for 6 months for $1,182, and then coming soon, how to earn tens of thousands of dollars in scholarship money to attend Stanford University or the university of your choice, worth tens of thousands of dollars. Keep that in mind. Tens of thousands. My daughters have received it. Other students are receiving full rides by scoring and following these same frameworks, these same steps. Total value, $36,276 plus. And now, for coming tonight, take a moment and get your peace principle. This QR code right here will allow you to have access to it. And let me see if I might be able to put the link in our live YouTube video since you guys are here. Let me do that now. So since you guys are here, here is the live YouTube link video for coming tonight. I put it in there. You can have that absolutely free, because I don't know about you, but I get tired of siblings fighting and parents arguing. Chloe and Emma were two sisters who followed this exact framework and changed their life. And so I want to remind you, for coming tonight, you're going to get all of these things: the 6-week family legacy, the Confident Scholar Vault, the scholarship course, the Calming Conflict PDF, then the Merciful Authority model. This right here started like every parent's worst nightmare on a hot summer day. 11-year-old Leon was completely overwhelmed. His family was in the middle of moving. Stress was running high. The emotional weight of it all was boiling over. When his grandmother, Cindy, tried to get him logged into his morning session, Leon hit a wall. He refused to move, swatted her hand away from the computer, ran outside, and threw a fit in the yard because he was full of rage. Sarah was exhausted and brought the tears. She felt helpless, angry, and honestly, she wanted to run away. That's when we stepped in, not with a lecture, but with a lifeline. Through real-time coaching and principles in this framework, Sarah was guided to step out of the emotional storm and into the quiet authority. Instead of matching Leon's anger or piling on extra punishments, she learned how to shift her posture. The result? Within minutes, the tension dissolved. Without a single shout or screaming match, Leon walked in from outside, washed his face, sat down at his desk to complete his work. Restoring parental authority without the fighting through the Merciful Authority model, we equip parents with battle-tested frameworks that calm household conflict and power struggles and lead with calm confidence. I led her through the 4 phases of the quiet, confident model. And so that's the Merciful Authority model PDF, $197 value, totaling us at $36,573. And if all this did was finally get you stability in your home, would it be worth it? If this helped you get your peace back, would it be worth it? If this gave you a more joyful and rewarding relationship with the people in your home and family, would it be worth it? Now, I had two choices. I could either settle for less and try to give this away for cheap or even for free, and ultimately not do it because I can't afford to put in this kind of work and effort and energy to something that's for free. Or I could strive to give you the very, very best of everything I've ever learned and give it to you in the way that sets you up with absolute success and charge what it's worth, at least in part, to help motivate you to do the work. So, what's a stable, peaceful, joyful home worth to you? Because the true cost of inaction is prison time for parents and for kids. Not yet, but eventually those things do happen. To think it might not is foolish. Addiction to vaping and other forms of addiction is at an all-time high. And studies confirm that millennials are still playing video games in their parents' basement. If you're not setting your children up to grow and eventually develop their own roots, you're going to set them up to live in your basement off of what it is you're established. Because remember, this isn't a cost, it's an investment. And you can see why it's a good deal at $36,373. And typically I charge $4,997. That is the future buyer price. Next year, that will be the price. But because you're here tonight, you can get it started right now for $997 today. Go to andrewsifrey.us/go. So right now, don't wait, get started now. Go to andrewsifrey.us/go. You have two choices. First option, do nothing yet. Think about putting it all together. But eventually, you're going to come back because your family is important to you. You're going to find a way to make this happen. If somebody offered you a $100,000 home for $1,000, you'd buy it. If you had an opportunity to buy $1 million home tonight for $1,000, would you buy it? Yes, you would. You'd find a way. You'd borrow money. You'd ask somebody because of how valuable that is. You know the asset of a house, $1 million house, is worth $1,000 investment. What value do you put on your home, on your family, on the legacy of your future? Now, I'm not saying this is the only thing you can purchase, but I want to encourage you to stop the delay and commit today. And if you don't think it's worth it, listen, you have 30 days. Return it, no questions asked. If you don't think it's worth 10 times what you pay for, this is a $10,000 course. Easy, easy. You can return it with no questions asked. But the real question is, are you going to keep waiting, hoping things get better on their own? Or go to andrewsifrey.us/go. Because keep in mind, what you're going to get is a 6-week family legacy inspection, Confident Scholar Vault access, scholarship courses, the Calming Conflict PDF, the Merciful Authority model. You're going to receive pathways to elite colleges, sports, etc., worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially in a lifetime of your children. You're going to avoid drugs, jail, a broken family. For $36,373, that's a good deal. So for right now, if you go to andrewsifrey.us, you can get $997 today. Now, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Be blessed.